Greetings and salutations, everybody. What's the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth? The John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, even after a few technical glitches trying to get the show started, to have you, our international friends, gathered around to talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all sorts of good things. And it's Thursday, and I am so glad to once again being joined by Aaron Cummings, also being joined by Joey. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're good. We missed you guys. We missed you, John. We missed you, the viewers at home, wherever you are watching in the world. And I have to say, I have spent this last month of hiatus binging Battlestar Galactica, much to my husband's joy and delight. Yes, he finally got me to watch the show after I've been spending the past 4 years calling him the biggest nerd on the planet. And now I totally understand why he loves Battlestar Galactica. It is the perfect show.
It's my all-time favorite show.
It is, you know what? And I will arm wrestle anyone who dares to challenge me on this. I say it is the best show ever created.
I agree.
It has everything. And it's so crazy for anybody that has not watched it in many years, or if you've never seen it, right now is actually the perfect time to watch it, because the allegory of, I mean, there's no way that they could have known what we would be going through right now, not just with the quarantine, but politically all over the world. There's so many things that I just go, oh my gosh, this is a metaphor for what we're doing right now.
The show is incredible. And I mean, a lot of people were kind of maybe a little bit disappointed with the finale. I still really like the finale.
I'm in season 4 right now. Okay, so don't say anything. Yes,
for me,
don't ruin it.
The original Lauren Green, Richard Hatch, 1970s, 1980s version of Battlestar Galactica. I actually, knowing that, I kind of found the ending perfect. But there's a couple of things that I watched the last couple of days that I realized, one, including a show you were on. I finally got caught up, because once Blacklist went on its season 7 break, I never really got caught back up.
Right.
And so I finally got caught back up. Now, I don't know if you heard about this, but the pandemic shutdown happened as they were halfway through shooting the final episode of the season. And so what they decided to do, and they don't shoot it in linear order. They'll shoot scene 18 on day 1, and they'll shoot scene 25 on day 2.
So it's not like they can just show the first half of what they shot and say to be continued, because they might not have even gotten the first shot of the episode.
Right. So what they did was, I remember we talked about it on this show, but I totally forgot about it. What they decided to do was, you know what? Let's use video game style animation to fill in the blanks. And so it goes from a live action scene, then they do this like television glitch, bzz, bzz, and it goes to the animation. And then they do the next part of the animation with the actors doing the voices. And then they glitch back to live action. They pieced it together that way. And I remember when we talked about it, I was like, it's an interesting idea to do. And I watched it, and they introduce it with all the actors at home going, hey guys, we came up with a creative way to finish.
Yeah.
By the time I was like 5 or 10 minutes into it, I totally didn't even notice the transitions from going back and forth.
You just go with it.
I just really liked it. The other thing I watched that you are going to love.
Okay.
It's a little documentary that we just accidentally stumbled on and put on in the background on Netflix. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
I do love documentaries.
It's a short documentary too. It's like a 40-minute documentary on Netflix, and it's called Speed Cubers. Now, the premise doesn't sound like much. Yep, it's about the world's fastest Rubik's Cube. It's about the world champion Rubik's Cube. And the basic premise is this. There's this Australian dude who has held like the world records for Rubik's Cubing forever, all the records.
Right.
To the point that he was saying, the only question around the world of Rubik's Cube was, is anybody ever going to be able to beat me? And
famous last words.
Right. And then while he was dominating the world, there was this young autistic kid named Max, this Asian autistic kid named Max, who just really took to Rubik's Cube. And this Australian dude was his hero. So he started getting better and better and better. And fast forward a couple of years, he starts breaking all the Australian guys' records. And it's about them competing at world championships and blah, blah. But the thing is, this Australian kid, because, Max he's this huge kid, even though he's young, he's this huge kid, he's autistic. And this Australian dude completely befriends him. He became his biggest champion, and he's like just hangs out with him and his family, and he's always cheering him on. And whenever he accomplishes something, this Australian dude gets on the phone, calls his mom, calls his family. It's beautiful because when it started, I don't know if you ever saw Fistful of Quarters, the Donkey Kong movie.
No, I didn't.
It's called King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. It's one of the best documentaries I've ever seen.
I've heard you talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
oh my God, I'm like so emotional. I'm too emotionally fragile to hear about these beautiful
it's beautiful
stories of friendship.
But in that movie, King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters, you know, you've got this average dude who's trying to set the Donkey Kong record, and then you got this world champion dude who's a total dick.
Oh, yeah.
And he's set up as the antagonist. So
it's like the Karate Kid. You just have to have that villain.
You got your Daniel and you got your Johnny. And I'm watching this Speed Cubers, and I'm thinking, okay, so this Australian dude is going to be our antagonist. Mm-hmm. But he's really the hero. And
oh my God.
It's just
love those Aussies,
guys. And
man.
I'm telling you what, and these guys are solving Rubik's Cubes in 6 seconds.
What?
6 seconds. And like the one kid is actually solves a Rubik's Cube with one hand and like 14.
What?
No, it's crazy.
Have you ever solved a Rubik's Cube?
I've never. No, the closest I ever got was I got 3 sides. And I thought I was king shit when I solved 3 sides of a Rubik's Cube.
I've solved it, but it takes forever because I would have to peel all the stickers off first and then re-put all the stickers back on. I mean, that's how you solve it, right?
Yeah, totally. No, but
yeah, it is beyond me. So I'm impressed with your 3 sides.
So I want to encourage you guys a couple things. If you haven't checked out that, even if you don't watch Blacklist, I encourage you go back and watch. It just aired a month or 2 ago, the season finale of Blacklist season 7. But I also really want to encourage you, hop on Netflix. It's only 40 minutes. This really cool little documentary, Speed Cubers. It's pretty fun. Anyway, guys, listen. Let's get into the show, shall we? We're going to break this show into 2 separate parts. Part 1, we're going to talk about our main questions that you guys sent in. And then we're going to go into our live questions that you guys can start submitting live comments or questions right now by simply using the tip link in the description of this video. You can just click on that, or you can enter it manually, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You'll be getting your comment or question on the show if it's reasonable. And you'll be supporting the show at the same time. But for now, let's get into our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime 24/7 over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on The John Campea Show. With that down, let's move in to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Colin Tipton, who writes, so it was announced yesterday that Mulan would be premiering on Disney Plus, yes, which we basically dedicated the whole show to, with a $30 price tag. It surprised me because I figured if they weren't doing that with New Mutants, then there's no way that they would do that with any of their major projects. But here we are. My question simply is, why didn't they choose to try this with New Mutants first? Thanks, and keep up the great work. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, listen, one of the things that a lot of people have been asking about ever since that news came out that they were going to be moving Mulan to Disney Plus first, where you got to be a Disney Plus subscriber and you got to pay a $30 fee on top of that. A lot of people have been asking the questions, well, why didn't they do that with this movie? Why didn't they do that with that movie? How come they didn't? Like, I've been getting a lot of messages asking about 30 or 40 different films. Why didn't they do with this? But New Mutants is a logical one to ask about. Because New Mutants is a movie that literally finished shooting like almost 3 years ago. They started shooting the film almost 5 years ago. Which is crazy. These kids are going to be bringing their grandchildren to the world premiere when it finally happens. But they do finally have a date. So why do something like this with Mulan and not with New Mutants? To me, there are 2 primary reasons. One reason is this, is that I think they knew that doing it with New Mutants really wasn't going to tell them anything. Like, New Mutants isn't a property that has a lot of following already. I mean, a lot of people don't even know that it's associated with X-Men, even though the movie itself is very, very loosely associated with X-Men anyway. So there's that. But, you know, it's not this thing like Mulan is a popular IP. It was a huge popular animated, blah, blah. It was going to be big. I don't know that Disney felt like we're going to learn anything by putting New Mutants on. Like if nobody at all subscribes to it, that doesn't really tell us anything. And if 10 million people get it, that doesn't really tell us anything either. So number one, I don't think they felt like there was much that they could learn from it because it's a very different scenario than say Mulan is. It's also the fact that it's found money, right? Like Fox paid for it all. This was just a part of the acquisition. This movie was shot by the time Disney picked up New Mutants. So there's that. Anything they get from a theatrical release is gravy to Disney at this point. The other thing, and I think this might be the bigger thing, is you got to remember, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Remember a couple of weeks ago, people were asking, do you think at Comic-Con they're going to announce putting New Mutants on streaming? And I said, well, it's possible, but one of the big hurdles of that is that they actually have some contractual obligations with people involved in the film that this film gets a theatrical release. That's not always put into contracts, but this was a big deal. We talked about this before, that New Mutants has has contractual obligations with, I believe, the director, a number of the cast, a couple of the producers, that this film gets a theatrical release. So unless Disney wanted to step up, break out the checkbook, and write some big checks to people to forego a theatrical release, which just makes the movie more expensive for them, that was going to be not insurmountable, but a hard one to sort of overcome. Aaron, I know you weren't here yesterday when we were talking about the whole idea about Mulan moving, but when you think about, you know, the fact that they did choose Mulan to do this, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about, well, why did they choose Mulan instead of a movie like New Mutants?
I think you hit it right there on the head, because Mulan is really the litmus test. It is the big kahuna of what they have to offer that's on their slate. Mulan has, as you said, a much wider audience. And also, you know, for anybody out there who has kids, and I don't yet, but I am a godmother and auntie to many, many, many children all over the country. And the number one thing when it comes to any new Disney movie that comes out is the parents constantly saying, yep, I know every word of this movie because we have watched it 25 times. That is a movie that Mulan could be. Mulan could be the kind of movie that parents go, you know what, I'm willing to shell out $30 because, you know, as Tom and I were talking last night, he was like, $30, that's a lot. And I go, well, think about it. If it was me, you, and 2 kids plus, you know, soda plus bathroom breaks, it makes a lot more sense to pay $30 to watch it at home. But I'm sure you covered all that yesterday. The reality, though, is that if I'm a parent and I know that my kid is one of those kids who watches every Disney movie 20 times, I'm willing to pay that for Mulan because I know that we're going to get our money's worth. New Mutants, I don't necessarily know. I mean, what is the rating on New Mutants anyway? It's definitely not G.
No, it's PG-13.
Right. And so that's the thing, is that automatically that's a huge market. And obviously I know, before I get anybody saying it, I know that it's not just children that are watching, but I'm specifically talking right now about those parents that are going to go, you know, my kids aren't going to watch New Mutants, and they're not going to watch it 25 times.
Well, also because it's partially being described as a horror film. It's like
exactly.
Film, yeah.
You know, it just doesn't have as wide of a reach, and it's also like, I'll watch New Mutants. Will I watch it over and over and over again? Probably not. Whereas with Mulan, yeah, I want to see Mulan, but I also am going to want to rewatch Mulan whenever my nephews and my nieces come over. I'm going to want to rewatch Mulan whenever I'm with my godkids. You know, that's a movie that has the kind of staying power of being able to really get your money's worth, whereas New Mutants just doesn't. And I feel like, you know, this is one of those movies that, you know, they've held on so long, you might as well continue to hold on until you have the right scenario. And yeah, Disney paying extra money to get themselves out of a contract or to sidestep a certain aspect of a contract makes absolutely no sense. They are just going to try to they're going to try to squeeze any juice they can out of New Mutants at this point. That's possible, and they're definitely not going to want to lose money on it.
One of the other things about this too is that right now New Mutants, and they just did this, they just announced this at Comic-Con, they're keeping their August 28th release date. And you know, how many I mean, there are some theaters open in the United States right now. I think, you know, Robert and I are talking about this, it seems like I feel like they're just going to keep that release date and put it out in whichever theaters are available to be
Georgia
out. Like Georgia, but also there's a number of other states. We went over the list of all the states that have some theaters open right now.
Right.
And because that does a couple things. Number one, again, they're just looking at any money they make on this thing in box office right now is just bonus at this point. The other thing is it's kind of like an olive branch to the theatrical industry saying, hey, we're putting out a new movie in theaters, even though there's limited seating, all that kind. We're doing that for you guys right now. I feel like it's a little bit of an olive branch to the movie fans out there that do want to go to the movies, whatever. So I think they're still going to stick with that. And that's another reason why they do that. Anyway, the question.
Really quick, just to add on to that, to ask you if this is the same thing. You know how like when a movie wants to be an Oscar contender, sometimes they'll only theatrically release it in like New York and LA so that they have that. Is that sort of a similar thing? Yeah. Is that similar? Like as long as they put it in certain number of theaters, they fulfill their contractual obligation and they can just throw it on the platform?
Oh yeah, that's definitely it.
Okay.
Like when once they put it
Thank you for clarifying.
Then they can start, because right now, when they put it in theaters, they're going to have to then observe the theatrical window, which is 3 months, right? 90 days.
Right.
But they can't start that clock until they put it in theaters. So once they put it in theaters in August, they might just be thinking, let's get into whatever theaters are out there on August 28th. That way we can start the countdown clock of the theatrical window. So in August, September, October, November. So by end of November, we can actually put it out on streaming and we've fulfilled all of our contractual obligations. So that's one of the big things there. Question is for you guys. Why do you think maybe Disney opted to go with releasing a Mulan on Disney Plus as opposed to something like a New Mutants? Do you agree with our reasonings? Do you have some others? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Xandersaurus, who writes, "Greetings, John." Well, greetings. Do you think Tenet will get delayed or debut on VOD/HBO Max because the release date, September 3rd, is a day before Disney's Mulan heading to Disney Plus on September 4th, which could concern Warner Brothers movie audiences staying home watching Mulan instead? It's been delayed so many times that I'm about to give up on Tenet and just watch Mulan instead for $29.99. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And as far as the first part of your question, do I think they'll put Tenet out on VOD or HBO Max? No chance in hell. And the reason, other movies may not be no chance in hell. Tenet is no chance in hell. Why? Because Warner Brothers likes working with Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan is all about theatrical release. And if they if they decided to take Tenet and bypass the theatrical release, they're never going to work with Christopher Nolan again. Christopher Nolan will never work with them again. That's been clear. Christopher Nolan was trying really hard to push them to release it in July. Obviously, that became an impossibility. So they kept bumping it, but they are. But on top of that, they've also just announced that they've just absolutely secured the Chinese release of Tenet, which will be on September 4th as well. So they've secured the Chinese release. They've got their international markets that they're going to release it in, and they'll release it wherever in the US that they can on September 3rd. At the end of August, though, they're releasing it around the world. And I think 70 different countries, they said. They're going to release it in 70 different countries. 1 week later, they'll open it in the US where they can, but they're definitely going to open it in China where they can in China, because not all the theaters are open in China either. But even if that gets delayed, they're not going to bypass the theatrical window because, again, Christopher Nolan. They want to be in the Christopher Nolan business. On top of all that, do I think they should move the date because Mulan is now releasing on Disney Plus like the day before on the 3rd or right around the same time? No. We've had this discussion before about other things. You know, there have been times, and I can't remember what the movie was, but, you know, Punisher was getting released on Netflix on a certain day that happened to be the same day that a theatrical release was coming out. Made no significant difference. It made no some difference? Sure. There's obviously going to be some people that stayed home to watch Punisher instead, but you got to remember, Punisher was going on Netflix. It was going to be there all the time. They could literally wait a year or two. Movie comes out in theaters, it's going to be there for a couple of weeks, and then it's gone. So really what we've seen before when we've had situations like this where a significant television property was dropping versus a significant movie that was dropping in theaters at the same time, it never really made much difference to either. And so with Disney Plus having Mulan, there's not that sense of urgency. You know, it's not like people have been unable to watch stuff at home. And all of a sudden now there's something to watch at home. We haven't had new material coming out in the theaters. So I really don't see this affecting, and it has nothing to do with it being Mulan. It has nothing to do with it being Tenet. I just think, Aaron, we have seen this situation before with something big dropping on TV and something big dropping in the movie theaters at the same time. Neither have moved, and it's never really affected the other all that much. So I don't see any reason why Mulan should be worried that Tenet's opening in theaters. I don't see any reason why Tenet should be worried that Mulan's opening up on television. So I really don't think you're gonna see anything move other than being pandemic related. Pandemic issues may force Tenet to move, but I don't think the Mulan thing is. What are your thoughts on this, Aaron?
I completely agree with you. It's really apples and oranges. I also think that other than a specific a faction of just film fans in general who want to see every movie, every great movie that comes out or every exciting movie that's coming out as soon as it comes out. Outside of that core group of fans, you really are looking at a totally different demographic for the kind of people that are going to be really wanting to see Mulan first thing opening weekend and the kind of people that are going to want to see Tenet first thing opening weekend. These are very, it's just a completely they're not comparable films. And also I applaud Christopher Nolan for really sticking to his guns on this, because this is a movie that really needs to be seen in a theater. And I will say this, if the theaters currently in Los Angeles are all still closed, if I'm not wrong.
They're all still closed.
Correct. Okay, thank you. And so if this were to come out on VOD anyway, which obviously it's not going to, but even if it did, I wouldn't want to see it on VOD. I want to see this movie on a big screen the way that it was intended. There are some movies, like this isn't Marriage Story, that is just that's a narrative that you can watch at home. This is the kind of film that needs to have that grand scale of seeing it in a movie theater, at least for the first couple of times. And agree as well, the pandemic may move it, but it won't have anything to do with it potentially competing with Mulan, because you're right, it won't. And if I can go to the movies, and also if I'm somewhere where there is a movie theater that's opening, every day the dynamic is changing in our country and in our world, where wherever the pandemic is still a big issue for for the population. This is something where I'm going to go the first night that I can, because I don't know that my movie theater is going to stay open. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, your movie theater might be open the weekend that Tenet comes out, but it might not be open the next weekend. So if it does come out in theaters and you have a theater, put on your mask, socially distance yourself, and go to the theater.
Yeah, it's funny. It's because Christopher Nolan just put out, you can find this on YouTube, guys, Tenet Chinese IMAX trailer. Christopher Nolan just put one out, and the first half of it is just Christopher Nolan doing an introduction to the Chinese audience. He goes, hello to my movie friends in China. He goes, I'm so thrilled to be bringing Tenet to you the way I made this movie to be watched on the big screen, blah, blah, blah. So he's really hardcore all about that. Good. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Do you think maybe it would behoove Tenet to move dates just to avoid the television launch of Mulan? I don't think that that's necessary at all. Maybe you do, and you can think of some rationale that I'm not thinking of right now. Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Chris Pat, who writes, it was just announced that Tom Hanks is in early talks to play Geppetto in the Disney live-action Pinocchio. Hanks has name recognition that drives an audience fan base, not that Disney struggles with that. However, I found it interesting that this would be a reunion of Zemeckis and Hanks. They have worked together for Castaway and Forrest Gump, and don't forget about that animated film, the Polar Express. Don't forget about that one. They worked together on Castaway and Forrest Gump, most notably. And yes, you are right. It sounds like they have, now the official word is that Tom Hanks has officially entered negotiations for it. But you got to remember, once you've gotten to that point of negotiations, it doesn't always work out, but that means that the producers decided, yep, you're the actor we want, and the actors decided, yes, I would like to be in this movie. Now they just got to work out the details. Again, you got Zemeckis, who I think they announced back in 2018 was going to direct this thing. That's how long this has been gestating. So Hanks and Zemeckis clearly like working together. They're working out their deal. I would be shocked if this doesn't work out. So let's just go with the assumption that Tom Hanks is going to end up playing this character. I think it's great. Now, Pinocchio is still a little bit of a sore spot for me because one of my all-time favorite movies is the Italian Roberto Benigni masterpiece, Life is Beautiful. It is one of my all-time favorite films, and Roberto Benigni won Oscars for it. Roberto Benigni's follow-up film was a live-action Pinocchio. That was terrible. And so Pinocchio is a little bit of a sore spot for me because I want that to be great. But they're talking about, look, anything you put Tom Hanks in, you're going to get attention. You're going to get my attention. Tom Hanks isn't exactly a big box office draw anymore, Aaron. I don't know that he ever was a huge box office draw, but he's America's dad. That's how Anne refers to him. He's America's dad. Everybody loves Tom Hanks. Yeah. And well, we should. And so I think this is great. Seeing him work with Zemeckis is great too. Aaron, you see this? Does it make you interested in a Pinocchio movie?
You know, I actually thought that you were going to say Pinocchio was a sore spot because you used to be a little wooden boy.
I used to be a little
and that transition was really challenging. You know, I was thinking about this, and I really cannot imagine anyone except for Tom Hanks playing this role. I'm going to take this in a little bit of a dark direction, and I apologize, but I'm just going to go there just because it really, this is a prime example of how important casting really is. You know, there's been so much talk in the past, just in the past few years with what has been revealed about the Catholic Church, a lot that's been revealed about Hollywood. There's just been some just about child trafficking. There's been some really awful things that have always been going on, but have really come to light that I think is that people are much more aware of and a little bit more in tune to. And so if you have someone like Joaquin Phoenix, for example, playing Geppetto, who wants to make a little wooden boy who turns into... That movie is really dark, That's a very different movie than if you have Tom Hanks playing it. And so, and I only bring that up because even in like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, or what was...
Won't You Be My Neighbor, I think
No, not the documentary, but the...
A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood?
Yes.
It was one of those two.
There were still even like those connotations about that, which were obviously unfounded. But I think that this is such a delicate story that has to be told in just the right way. And yes, I do think that Tom Hanks is the perfect person to do it. And I agree with you and Anne as far as Tom Hanks not necessarily being a big box office draw, but I think that also has to do with the types of movies that he's been doing.
Yes, absolutely.
He's been choosing to do movies that I think reflect more of where he is in his life. And he's not like, I don't think Tom Hanks is trying to go for the big box office draw. I think he's trying to create projects that will have a lasting, that will be able to last for many, many years so that his children and his grandchildren and his great-grandchildren and all of their peers can continue to enjoy in perpetuity, which I really respect and admire. And I think that one of the reasons also why this film has probably been what was the term you used?
Gestating.
Gestating. Thank you. Not gesticulating. That's very different. Gestating for so long is because not only with the technological aspect of it, but also the precious kid gloves that you want for this kind of story. I applaud Zemeckis for taking his time with this, and this will be a movie that I am very excited to see.
I think one of the funniest things I've seen online in a long time, there's a brilliant Onion article, and I remember I shared it, and like the response I got on my Facebook was crazy because the headline is woman comes forward about incident with Tom Hanks is the headline, right? But then
nobody reads that.
But it was the Onion. It was from the Onion.
Right.
And then it goes into about how woman's come forward about how she tripped and Tom Hanks came out of nowhere and helped her and bought her ice cream and then bought her cat a new scratch toy about how wonderful he is, right?
Of course.
It's like, I got hundreds of comments and it's like, oh my God, you gave me like because it's Tom Hanks. He's America's dad. Anyway, question here for you guys is this. What do you think about Tom Hanks playing Geppetto? It's kind of a perfect match. Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move into our fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by David Hoffman, who writes, "Hello, John and company. According to Deadline, Captain Marvel has found its director, yes, they have, in Candyman's Nia DaCosta. What do you think of this choice? Do you think she is a good fit? Thanks, and keep bringing the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, David. And yeah, listen, one of the films that Kevin Feige has clearly indicated they're looking at, they're going to do, it's absolutely set in stone, but we haven't heard a lot of movement on, is Captain Marvel 2. Now, you got to keep in mind, Captain Marvel 2 was inevitable. It was going to come. It's one of the bigger hits the last couple of years, made $1.1 something billion at the box office, which was crazy. I quite enjoyed Captain Marvel, not in my top half of favorite Marvel films, to be honest, but still one that I really quite enjoyed. I liked it, just not a top shelf Marvel film for me, but it has a lot of open doors of where they can go. I think Brie Larson's an Academy Award winning actress, all that kind of stuff. They've got the screenplay has been written. So the screenplay is done. The question has been who's going to direct it. Now you got to keep in mind that aside from, say, James Gunn or the Russos, Marvel likes to change the directors in the individual franchises. They switched directors in Iron Man. They switched directors in Captain America. They switched directors. What was the other one I was just thinking about? They switched directors with Thor. Like they went from Kenneth Branagh, the first one. They switched that one too. So it's not a big surprise that they decided to switch up directors for Captain Marvel. In this case, they went with Nia DaCosta. Now, Nia DaCosta is interesting because first of all, obviously, I haven't seen Candyman yet. I did watch another feature she did. I think it was her first feature called Little Woods.
Her first.
That she did with Lily James. Lily James. And
Tessa Thompson.
Thorger, yes, Tessa Thompson, which wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. Like, I liked it. And it showed what she could do with a small budget and just telling a story and a narrative story and working with higher caliber actors. Liked it. Obviously, Jordan Peele and others liked her so much, they gave her the Candyman reboot. And apparently the studio liked what she did with the Candyman reboot because now she's landed a Captain Marvel gig. So to me, and for me, there's not a big enough sample size for me to sit here and say, oh my God, this is a great selection, or I really don't see this one. I just don't have a big enough sample size. I thought Little Woods was a decent little film for what it was. I haven't seen Candyman yet, so come back and ask me again what I think about her being selected once I've seen Candyman. Clearly they were impressed. Clearly they like what they saw, and they gave it to her. So I am, as far as how do I feel about Nia DaCosta getting this gig, I'm agnostic about it, right? Because again, I just don't have a big enough sample size. But I trust Kevin Feige. He seems to know how to fit the right directors that get his vision. Unlike Kathleen Kennedy working with her directors in Star Wars, Kevin Feige seems to know how to pick the right directors who are in total sync with what his vision is, and he understands what they want to bring to the table. So, hey, I give Kevin Feige the benefit of the doubt. Aaron, I don't know if you've had a chance to see Little Woods. I know you haven't seen Candyman yet, but what do you think about this selection of Nia DaCosta to do Captain Marvel 2?
Ooh, I'm so excited. And here's why I'm excited. There has been, there is a history of horror film directors making the transition to doing these superhero directors.
True, yeah.
We have Sam Raimi with Spider-Man. We have, obviously Sam Raimi has a plethora of horror films. We have Scott Derrickson, James Wan. There's a whole list of these directors who have made the transition from horror to superhero, maybe back to horror, back and forth. And so I think that Nia DaCosta's experience with Candyman, I mean, obviously the studio is seeing something that we are not. And so, and I also have a great amount of respect for Jordan Peele. I think not only is he an impeccable storyteller, but also he has a really good eye, not only for talent in front of the camera, but for having his finger on the pulse of who else is out there that maybe is not yet on the studio's radar. So I love the fact that Jordan Peele really went to bat for her. And, and I think that this is very telling of what they are seeing. I have not had a chance to see Little Woods, but it's on my list for this weekend of movies that I want to go back and check out. But I think think that this is one of those scenarios where there's so many people who are in the know of what's going on with Candyman, her how she works as a director, that are really rooting for her. And like I said, given her background in storytelling in the world of horror, and as we've seen so many horror directors making that transition, what I'm looking forward to and Captain Marvel 2 from Nia DaCosta is seeing even more character development and even more of her of her story as a person. The person side of the human side of her coming out, and I just think this is really exciting. I can't wait to see Candyman, even though I'm not huge on watching horror films. I'm really looking forward to seeing it because clearly she gave them something in Candyman that made them go, this is our person, this is our director. So I'm really looking forward to it, and congratulations to her for being invited into the club.
You know what? You brought up a great point that I haven't even really considered. We are starting to see this emerging pattern of horror directors being able to make that transition and bring that sense. Because, look, and that makes perfect sense to me, because now that I think about it, we always talk about how movies are experiential events, right? You need to deliver that experience. If you're doing a comedy, make me laugh. If you're doing like a dramatic thing, make me feel. If you're doing a horror, make me scared. And I think when you're dealing with like comedy, horror is one of those ones where the experiences have to be right on your sleeve, right? You deliver that experience on a very on the sleeve, right up at the surface level to bring that. And I think there's a lot of similarities with that with comic book films, where you're trying to deliver a similar type of experience, just a little bit different from the horror one to that. And maybe that's, and Derrickson obviously making the transition from all the horror he's done into Doctor Strange, which I thought was a great transition. Mm-hmm. James Wan was a great example of that. The Sam Raimi one is a great example of that. I love that comparison. I hadn't even thought about it. You know what? You just made me a little bit more excited about her directing this film.
Wow, wonderful.
I've only seen one movie of hers, not a big enough sample size, but I love that comparison you just made. So
and also think about like the action, in every horror film, there's gotta be, you have to be able to figure out, action has to be woven in as if it's a symphony. You can't just all of a sudden, hit somebody over the head with it. It really it has in every action scene, it has that arc of how that's going to be created. And so those action scenes in horror, whether it's a chase scene or building up to an attack, those things also lend themselves to being able to do an action scene in a superhero film. I feel like it's kind of along a similar wavelength. So that kind of gives me a little more, but I'm really glad that I could make you more excited about this film. My day is complete.
And the last time I had a MCU director that I really didn't have enough personal of a sample size of them was Peyton Reed, when he came on and did Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. And I ended up loving Ant-Man. Like again, it's just Kevin Feige. And again, when the Russo brothers were brought in to do Captain America Civil War, everybody's like, wait, the You Mean Dupree guys?
Right.
But Kevin Feige just knows when he's got a director or set of directors in front of him that understand and get on the same wavelength with him and understand his vision, and he sees what uniqueness they can bring to it and matching that up. And there haven't really been, maybe Thor Dark World was a little bit of a drop of the ball there, but other than that, he's always synced up perfectly with his directors, and maybe that could work in this film's favor a lot. Question is for you guys. What do you think about Nia being selected to direct the Captain Marvel sequel? Again, if maybe you're like me, you probably are like me, don't have a lot of a sample size, but what are your thoughts on this overall? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's now transition over into the live questions that you guys have been sending in. Once again, if you want to send a live question or comment, simply use the tip link in the top of the description of this video, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You're getting your comment or question on the show, and you'll be supporting the show at the same time. So without any further ado, let's dive right into it here. We're going to start things off here with Adam K, who writes, If Disney is experimenting with putting giant blockbusters on Disney Plus, why wouldn't they test it out with Jungle Cruise instead? I told you I've been getting inundated with questions. Why not this movie? Why not that movie? Why not this movie? How about that one? I've been getting inundated with these. Why wouldn't they test it out with Jungle Cruise instead? Wouldn't that make more sense since it wasn't expected to make as much money as Mulan? Well, I don't know that they've got a firm handle on how much money they can expect Jungle Cruise to make. You got two of the biggest stars in the world in there right now with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt. It's not like Jungle Cruise is a bad ride at Disneyland. I mean, let's just call it what it is. As opposed to Mulan, which has a blue thing. So I don't know. I think plus, Mulan is on its third or fourth release date.
Yeah.
They already announced the move of Jungle Book. They moved it significantly. So I think if they had to choose between the two, Mulan seems to be the more logical choice out of that, but I'm sure there's a million different criteria that they went through to arrive at that one. All right, Gary writes, wouldn't it be possible that by Mulan bypassing theaters altogether, they would be providing incentive for people to join Disney Plus down the road? I understand that most people wouldn't join and pay $30 now, but maybe in 3 months we see a subscription bump. I mean, that's the one thing, but you got to understand, Disney. This is what the part about this whole thing, Aaron, that I find a lot of film fans simply just don't grasp. The economic realities of what studios need to make on particular movies. Mm-hmm. Mulan needs to make minimum to break even. I'm not talking after theatrical cuts, I'm talking minimum. They need to make $300 million. Mm-hmm. They're not going to get $300 million any other way.
Oh,
they need to charge $30, and even charging $30, they need 10 million households to rent it. Mm-hmm. That represents 1 out of every 6 people they're counting on 1 out of every 6 people who have Disney Plus will drop the extra $30 to get it. All the other stuff is gravy that comes after that. Mm-hmm. And we put up a poll yesterday asking people, hey, if you weren't a subscriber to Disney Plus, would you sign up for Disney Plus to watch Mulan and pay the extra $30? We had like 5,000 respondents. 87% of the people said no. Mm-hmm. So I think they know they can't rely on, we're going to make our money by all these people signing up for this. I don't think it's not the same situation as Hamilton. Hamilton created like a 15 million subscriber bump, but it was a world phenomena. Hamilton is a worldwide phenomena and has been for years, and people didn't have to pay extra to watch it on Disney Plus.
It's also really difficult to get Hamilton tickets,
it's impossible. Anne and I Anne's seen it twice, and she's tried very hard over the years to get tickets, and she's managed to get tickets twice. So.
Tom, for my birthday years ago, we were on our honeymoon. We were in Italy, and my birthday was literally like 2 days after we got back from Italy. And Tom said, "What do you want for your birthday?" And I said, "Hamilton tickets. Make it happen." And he was like, But thankfully, his buddy that he went to grad school with is the assistant director of Hamilton and couldn't make it to our wedding because he was doing Hamilton. And he had texted Tom, "I'm so sorry I can't make it to your wedding. Can I make it up to you?" And he texted me, he goes, "Dude, I need Hamilton tickets for like next week." And so we still had to pay for them, but we were able to pay the proper ticketing price, and we went to see it on my birthday, and it was the best birthday
awesome.
ever.
I loved Hamilton. It's probably one of my top 3 favorite stage shows ever. Les Mis is still my favorite. Les Mis is still my favorite.
The Russell Crowe version, of course.
Well, no, the stage.
I'm kidding.
Stage.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I like the Russell Crowe.
I know. You know what? I just had to hit the low hanging fruit. That one. I know. I thought he did a wonderful job.
All right, let's see. John Campea writes, instead of $30, what if Disney made an event out of it where on September 4th, 5th, and 6th, Mulan streams exclusively on Disney Plus, just like the Oscars do on ABC. That way they get more people incentivized to sign up for the service because of no $30 surcharge. Again, then Disney loses their pants. Mm-hmm. You can do it that way, but Disney's going to lose their pants.
For $6 a month, yeah.
Yeah, and on top of all that, remember, the theaters will not play Mulan. Because if you're saying, I'll just put it for exclusively on streaming for 3 days, then put it in theaters, theaters won't play the movie then. Because they insist on the theatrical window. Cineworld, Regal, Cinemark have all come out and reaffirmed theatrical window, 90 days. If you put it out on streaming first, we're not going to play it in our theater. So that became something. So they needed to make that money. They need to get that upfront money. They need 300 million minimum to break even. And then they need to get about 800 million to get back that money that they're leaving on the table because they're not going theatrical. But where are they going to play it theatrically? So it's all gravy at this point right now. So
Does Disney Plus, I haven't watched enough of Disney Plus to know, do they do advertising while you're watching something, like at the beginning or at the end? Do they advertise? You know how Netflix doesn't, we're always super annoyed? Because here's the thing, if they are advertising.
They'll advertise outside of Disney Plus.
Oh, okay.
They put a lot of money into I see lots of commercials for Disney Plus all over the place.
Got it.
So, I mean,
I think that if they're focusing on not trying to get new subscribers, but just really trying to target their audience that has already subscribed, that's where I would put my marketing money if I were in charge. Is I wouldn't try to recruit new people. New people, we can focus our efforts sometime else. I would focus on the people that are already invested and already are like in the Disney family. Focus on them, get them to do it. They're the ones that are going to know the Disney brand. They're going to want the Disney brand, and they're going to buy the Disney brand.
All right, next up, we've got Cammie Egan, who writes, "Hey, John and Rob." Well, Rob's not here today. "I'm sure you've heard the Russo brothers are interested in doing Secret Wars in the MCU. I think the new phase is going to set the stage for this. What are your thoughts on the Russos possibly coming back for this? And is it a good idea?" Listen, I love every single movie the Russo brothers did in the MCU. Whether it's Civil War, Infinity War, obviously Endgame. I just love what they have done. Winter Soldier. I just love what they have done in the MCU. That said, I am still to this day unimpressed with anything they've done outside of the MCU. I'm obviously not a You, Me, and Dupree fan. I know a bunch of people do, but I was really disappointed in that Netflix Chris Hemsworth action film. I thought it was quite poor. It was great action, but I thought the movie was quite poor. 21 Bridges, I thought was terrible. Now they've got another one here coming out soon that they're in charge of. So we'll see how that goes. So I don't know. Like at this point, I really want to see the Russo brothers, coming out of, I want to see a big, awesome movie coming out of their production company. Because until I do, I'm always left wondering, how much of that was the Russos and how much of that was Kevin Feige? Mm-hmm. And how much of that was the Russos got to come in and build on all the success that other directors had done in the MCU to set it all up for them. I'm not saying it wasn't the Russo brothers. I'm not. I love the Russo brothers. I'm just saying, until I see the Russos do something as the main executive producers with their production company, whether they're writing, directing, producing, whatever, I want to see a really great, high quality movie coming out of them prior to them coming back to the MCU. Because again, I'm left to wonder, even though I think I know, there's always going to be that little bit of my brain that wonders, what was that, the Russos or was that Kevin Feige? Would Infinity War have been as good or better if Kevin Feige had had another director? I just don't know. I'm not saying that's the case. Don't misquote me. I'm just saying I'm still wondering a little bit. So I don't know. I really don't. If Kevin Feige wanted them back, then great. Fantastic. But I'm always going to have that. I really, 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 because I like the Russo brothers so much, I really want to see something come out of their studio that I really enjoy. And so far, I just, their post-MCU world, they're 0 for 2 with me. They're post-MCU. Let's see what happens with their upcoming films. All right, next up, James LH writes, "I brought up about the importance of cinema due to this Mulan situation. I won't be paying $30. As a single person, it does not make financial sense. In Deadline, the head of the UK cinema says that this deal is a step backwards, hugely disappointed, and mistimed." Well, listen, again, I've said this before, Aaron, and I brought it up yesterday too. The reality is this. What we thought 5 months ago don't apply anymore. Mm-mm. The idea of Mulan or any big film going to VOD 3 months ago, I would have said is an impossibility. But as we get further and further into this pandemic, because I also thought the movie theaters were going to be open and everything would be fine.
We all did. We were, yeah.
That July, yeah, that's plenty of time. July, we'll be. Come on, we don't have incompetent leaders. We'll be fine. Sorry, I don't want to go into it, but like we'll be fine. July, we'll be fine. But that changed, and as every day passes, the rules change.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, studios like Disney are in a place where they're like, there is no playbook here. There's no precedent. It's like, well, how did the companies get through it from that pandemic 10 years ago? There is no rule, but there's no precedent. They're all trying to figure it out as they go along. Now, some, like Universal, are acting really backhanded in trying to take advantage of this situation. Whereas other studios like Warner Brothers, Disney, and Paramount, they're just trying to figure out how do we make this work for all of us?
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a movie like Mulan that's sitting on the shelf. How long are they supposed to leave it sitting there? Maybe they experiment with something. They kept the theaters in the loop. They called the theaters weeks ago to let them know that they were looking at doing this. So this didn't blindside anybody. I mean, it really... Yeah, I mean, Aaron, you pointed out earlier, it makes no financial sense for you and Tom to sit at home and pay $30 to watch Mulan on Disney Plus, especially since it's just going to come on Disney Plus for free in a couple more months.
Right.
But
we can wait.
You said the family of 5, the family of 6, maybe.
Oh yeah, if we had 2 kids and they were bouncing off the walls and we were like, oh my God, if I have to watch Snow White one more time, my ears are going to bleed, then yeah, I would pay $60 to get anything else in the rotation. But, I completely understand, this writer says, hey, I'm a single person. It doesn't make any financial sense for me.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. You are absolutely right. And you should not pay $30 to see it if it doesn't make finance. In fact, right now, we are all having to weigh individually, does this make financial sense to me?
Yeah.
And so, I completely respect someone saying, you know what, this is just not a priority for me right now. We all have to figure out where our money is going to be allocated. And so for some families, it makes a lot of sense because they would have spent that much and more to take their kids to the theater to see it. But this time they don't have to get up in the middle of the movie and take the kid to the bathroom. They can just pause it. But yeah, for Tom and I, we will probably just wait until it comes out on for free. And that's okay. But, that's a decision that everybody's going to be making on their own. And I also appreciate the fact that Disney is striking while the iron is hot, and they're saying people want content right now. People are ingesting content, and very quickly, we're going to run out of content of new things. So let's give them something that they want, keep the excitement while we've all, and also not lose all of the marketing money that we've already spent in 2020 promoting Mulan.
Yeah.
If you wait to just see what happens, well, all that money is gone then. At least this time, right now, they can say, you know what, we're just building on the momentum that we've already created this year.
The other problem they face is that there are people who are diehard Disney fans, like me, that are really seriously considering canceling Disney Plus. Because I have now been a Disney Plus member for nearly 10 months, and they've given me 2 pieces of content that I've been interested in. They gave me Mandalorian, and then they put Hamilton out. Really? That's what I've been paying my monthly subscription service for getting close to a year now? For 2 pieces of content? And don't talk to me about the pandemic, because they had nothing ready to go after Mandalorian finished. They had nothing ready to go after Mandalorian finished. And I think they're feeling the crunch about, hey guys, don't you want to come and watch this other super low budget kind of reality competition show we just put up? Like, don't you think, no, we need fresh, real content. And I think a part of this with this Mulan move might be to appease the Disney Plus subscribers, saying, you haven't given us anything.
Right.
You haven't given us anything. Give us something. And so there might be a part of that as well. So then it comes up the debate about, and this is where there's point and counterpoint. It's like, oh, okay, I can pay $30 to do exactly what I do every day, sit on my couch and watch my TV. Or I could pay $15 and go to a movie theater, have a night out with a friend, have some popcorn drinks, be in a big crowd and watch this and have an event out of it. But the counterpoint is, Where are you going to do that? There ain't no movie theaters open right now. So
Right.
it's a pickle. It is a pickle. Everybody's just trying to figure out which
And
way.
again, if you are going to the theaters, you and Anne and a couple of friends, and it's a night out and it's an event and it's fun, that's great. But I think that it's a very different experience. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back. I'm just speaking for all the moms out there.
But see, I have friends with kids who've been saying to me, I'm desperately looking for things to get my kids, take my kids out of the house to go and do with my kids.
Really?
And there's
But is
nothing
sitting in
for
a
them to
movie
do.
theater a fun thing? Because I remember seeing Tangled with my niece, and she was sitting on my lap the whole time. And halfway through the movie, she started getting like really like,
I
you know,
my
doing that
friends
thing.
love taking their kids to the movies. They
And
love going to the
she
theaters
was
with
like,
them.
I'm bored. I want to go. And I was invested. And I was like, you are going to sit your ass right here on my lap. And we were going to, whoops.
Oh, there goes the camera. Well, they clearly need to get new kids.
Yeah, they do need to get new kids.
They need to get a new kid.
Their kids-
They've got to do one.
Well, I mean, they suck as humans, so why shouldn't their children suck too? Yeah, I said it. And my mom is watching. You know exactly whose kids I'm talking about.
Sorry, guys. We
That's
had
okay.
technical issues before the show started, so we had to change. We had to pull out a webcam to put on.
If I'm not overheating the camera and it's shutting off, I'm flailing my arms and things
All right,
are falling off.
We are way behind. We need to
Yes.
keep rolling here. Fat Yoshi writes, "Hey John, I have an idea for the theater industry. Mobile movie theaters. They set up like a carnival, maybe in some parking lot, and they have a giant screen, boom, portable drive-in theater. There's nothing portable about that. And by the way,
No,
you know,
that's
I
very
just went to a
complicated.
drive-in experience recently at the Rose Bowl. They turned the Rose Bowl into a drive-in. They brought in a big LCD screen. They did all that kind of stuff, but it took time and energy and effort to set that up, and it's not as quick and easy as that. But there are movie theaters, there are drive-ins out there, and I've gone to 2 drive-in theater experiences in the last month, had a great time at both. Go, guys, if you have a movie theater anywhere near you, go. They're always packed, so get your tickets early, but they're a fun thing to do. Brian writes, rentals at $20 to $30 is a deal for a family or group of friends, but not everybody watches with a group, especially during a pandemic. Ask a single person or even a couple to pay 3 to 4 times the price of a movie ticket to watch is ridiculous. And again, on top of that, what are you getting for it? You're getting a night to do what you were going to do anyway, sitting on your own couch in your own living room watching your TV. So again, it becomes financially makes more sense the more people involved. Like when I watch a UFC, I have like 10 people over, so it makes more sense financially. Otherwise, it doesn't. It's something that every individual's got to then weigh in. How much do they value that? Stubble McShave writes, how big do you think the foreign box office will be for Mulan at theaters? If it makes $300 million in foreign box office, how much will it have to make on PVOD? Oh my God, it ain't going to make $300 million in foreign box office. Remember, the only places Mulan can open in theaters is in countries that Disney Plus does not serve. That's not a lot. There are still countries that don't have, Disney Plus, but a lot of the bigger major markets do have Disney Plus now. A lot of the bigger markets do have it, and so don't expect to see Mulan making that much money at the international box office. It's not going to be significant. On top of that, the fact that we've got a pandemic and all that kind of stuff, so don't expect it to be much. That Mulan makes at the box office in those territories. Joe D writes, to your point regarding Disney Plus and Mulan, why would I pay an additional $30 to rent a movie on a paid streaming service that is lacking new great original content? I was just talking about that. I pre-ordered for 3 years and have not gotten much of a return on that investment yet. Joe, you are speaking to a frustration that I think a lot, Aaron, of Disney Plus subscribers have had, especially the ones who signed up for a year in advance or the 3-year package. Like, okay, I in good faith signed up. Where's this content? And again, don't bring up the pandemic, because even without the pandemic, they were going 6 months in between launching significant pieces of content. Yeah. Mandalorian, and then wait, as month after month after month pass. And you're right, now they come out and say, okay, hey, we're going to do this big thing for our Disney Plus subscribers. Oh, but we're going to want you to pay an extra $30 on top of it. It's making some people grumble. Look, I get the economic reality of it too. I understand why they need to do that. If you're going to put it on VOD, if you don't want to lose your pants, you got to charge a premium price for it. I get it. I understand that. But they have to understand it's going to make some people grumble, because they're like, hey, I've been paying for this service every month, and now you're telling me to get the good stuff, I got to pay more? significantly more.
But you know what? And here's the thing. Yes, grumble, grumble. I get it. This is going to be a really great experiment to see what happens, because what if it works? What if it works? If it works, we're screwed because this is going to be happening a lot more. So, and if it doesn't work, they're screwed. So it's really not a win-win situation. You know, I don't know. I agree with you. Financially, they have to do this. Otherwise, they're just going to lose their shirt with the loss of revenue from Mulan. But you know, yeah, I get it. Grumble, grumble. If it works for you financially, do it. If it doesn't, then don't. And we will see what happens in the end. Bob
Chapek, the new CEO of Disney, have said, he said right off the bat, this is a one-time thing.
Oh, okay.
This is a one-time thing. This is not an experiment, he said, to test out a new model. This Mulan thing is a one-time special thing. Okay.
Sure.
Fine. You say that, Bob Chapek. You say that.
Until you make $300 million.
But no, $300 million won't cut it. 300 million won't cut it because that just breaks even.
Okay.
Right? That's 400. Still leaving like 500, 600, 700, 800 million dollars on the table that they could have got theatrically. But let's say, and this is what Rob and I were talking about yesterday, they need to get 1 out of every 6 Disney Plus subscribers to buy Mulan in order to break even. And I think that's going to be challenging. They can do it, but there's going to be some challenges for that. What if they get 25 million people? What if they get almost 1 out of every 2 Disney Plus subscribers buy this thing? And they make $600, $700, $800 million. I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't believe there's a chance in hell that happens. But we are in an era where no chance in hell things happen almost every day. What if that does happen? That's great that Bob Chapek says, oh, this is a one-time only thing. Okay, that's cool. Mulan makes $800 million on this model. He's going to be changing his tune. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, changes everything.
And other streaming platforms, even if Bob keeps his word and says, no, I said it, we're going to keep it. Well, that doesn't stop any other streaming platform from going, oh my gosh, look at what they just made. We're going to charge a premium for this thing that we have coming out.
Yeah. So now they've been some experiments with not so great results. Like they moved King of Staten Island to it. Did not do well. Universal kept trying to spin that scoop was some big success. It really was not. It did better than it could have, but it wasn't some big success. There have been some struggles, but if Mulan can come out, again, I don't think it will, but if it does come out and set some kind of ridiculous precedent, woo, we are in for a roller coaster ride. All right, next up, Matt Rotini writes, "It will be smarter
Oh Lord,
for the release it on VOD everywhere for $30 and on Disney Plus for it for $20. It would have felt more like a value proposition for Disney Plus if they would have did it that way. This way seems like it will piss a lot of people off." Well, here's the problem, Matt, and I see what you're saying. So, hey, why not release it on all VOD platforms for $30, but on Disney Plus, you get $10 off and $20. Okay, that's fine, but here's the problem. Bob Chapek, the CEO of Disney, also made it clear that one of the reasons they're doing this is to incentivize people to sign up for Disney Plus. I don't think that's going to go so well for them, but that is one of their things. In order to do that, to have any hope of that working, it's got to be exclusive. Mm-hmm. It's got to be exclusively on Disney Plus. It's like, oh, I can get it for just $10 more on the Google Play Store, and I don't have to commit to Disney Plus. I don't have to sign up for Disney Plus. Great, yeah, I'll pay the extra $10, right? So remember we talked about this before. The long-term lifeblood of all these streaming services, Disney Plus, HBO Max, Hulu, Peacock, whatever, the ultimate lifeblood and what's going to gauge their success is their exclusive content. Mm-hmm. What you can get here and nowhere else. That's what makes their services work. That's what's going to make them work long term. So if Disney's going to do this, they got to make it exclusive. This is a Disney Plus thing. If you want to watch Mulan, you got to come to Disney Plus. I get what you're saying. If there were some way they could have incorporated a discount for Disney Plus subscribers, that would have been great, but you got to make it exclusive to Disney Plus. Tristan Riera, our Patreon supporter, writes, a big thank you for all the people who suggested videos and documentary material about the creation of Superman. I have everything I need for my lessons. You all rock, you handsome people. So for those of you who don't know, Tristan had asked a few days ago about trying to find some good video documentary material on the creation of Superman, and he was having a hard time to show to his class, and you guys came out in droves. You left stuff here in the live chat. You went into the comments section and left links to things, and clearly that helped out Tristan. It's great when the whole film fan community can get together and support one another. All right, next up, Tristan also writes, John, about my question about method actors. I was actually trying to lure you into making materials for a lesson on method acting for my class. I found your explanation on character actors great and wanted a similar one, but don't sweat it, I'll manage. Well, you know what? I thought the explanation I gave on method acting was pretty good anyway. If you had it in a nutshell, Aaron, being an actress, if you had to describe to somebody, say to somebody, what's your elevator pitch to somebody to say, this is what method acting is, what would you describe that?
I would say that I would describe method acting as immersive acting for the performer, where I, as the performer, put myself in a mental and physical state as if I am actually experiencing the things that the character is going through, not just on camera, but also off camera. For example, when Daniel Day-Lewis speaks in whatever dialect he's supposed to use for the film, when he uses it for his entire life outside of the film as well while he is filming. Or when Donnie Wahlberg, for example, actually, I believe, lived without a home, lived as a homeless person in preparation for his role in The Sixth Sense, to really physically immerse yourself or change aspects of your personal life that are not on camera in order to better understand and inhabit the character you're playing.
All right, that was a better description than I gave. All right, next up, Jedi Koth writes, happy about the Mulan release, but just sad for not being able to see it on the big screen or even IMAX. I was lucky enough to go to the premiere in March. I didn't even know it had a premiere in March. And this film deserves the big screen. So epic and beautiful. I will miss cheering with an audience. And, you know, that goes back, Jedi Koth, again, to this, one of the reasons why I always talk about theatrical experience. I'm sorry, your home theater sucks. It just does. That's okay. My home theater sucks too. Compared to a movie theater, being in a theater the way, like as Christopher Nolan describes it, the way Quentin Tarantino describes it, seeing a movie the way it was meant to be seen, what the directors have in mind when making it, being in that room with 100 other people, 300 other people, and, you know, seeing these big, massive images and experiencing all these things with an audience. Like, you know, we take it to the Portals example in Endgame all the time. Like, how shitty would that have been to have watched that for the first time at home on your crappy TV? Like, how crappy would that have been? But instead being with an audience of everybody looking at each other and cheering and high-fiving and losing their minds. I mean, that's just part of it, and it is too bad. But hey, you know, again, it's unique times right now. There's not a right or a wrong right now. Everybody's just trying to figure it out. So I see where you're coming from on that. All right, Alan writes, hey, John, Rob / Aaron. If theaters were to open up before the end of the year, if not sooner, could Disney release Mulan in those theaters, even if it's currently on Disney Plus? Also, is Aaron on the winning team, #Godzilla, and does she know about the Campea cut? I don't know. Hey, King Kong versus Godzilla, which side? I'm a Kong guy. Rob's Godzilla. Because we got, obviously, Godzilla versus Kong coming. Which side are you on?
Oh, I'm King Kong all the way.
Good girl.
You know why? Because Kong loves Fay Ray.
That's right.
He's a lover and a fighter.
He got taste. What was the question again? Oh yeah, if the theaters open? No, they couldn't, because the movie theaters would not. At least the major movie theaters would not play it. Once it goes on streaming in VOD, the theaters of NATO have a policy that we then don't play those on our theaters. Because it really is not in their best interest to do so. So there's nothing stopping Disney from finding the smaller and some independent films to still put it out on screens. But like Regal won't do it. Cineworld won't do it. And that's kind of understandable. That's understandable. And I don't think she knows about the Campea cut. We're talking about my fan film that I made many years ago that won some awards, even though it's one of the worst films ever made.
What?
Yeah, it's called Rise of the Trades. It's my Star Wars fan film.
Rise of the what?
Rise of the Trades. It's a Star Wars fan film that crosses Godfather and Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. And
this is available on Disney Plus?
No, it is available nowhere because I won't let anybody watch it anymore.
Except for me and Tom.
No. You see, I hadn't seen it in 10 years. And my buddy Rodney, and I remember we sold out movie theaters for it. We won awards. We brought to Star Wars Celebration. We had it screened at Star Wars Celebration.
What's the problem?
So I hadn't seen it in like 10 years. My buddy Rodney got a hold of me and said, hey dude, I came across we even sold DVDs. I found a copy of Rise of the Trades. I'm like, oh my God, can you send it to me? Anne's never watched it. So I'm bragging to Anne, oh baby, it's gonna be, it's gonna be fancy underwear night tonight when you see the movie your husband made. It's gonna be
fancy underwear night. Anyway, oh my God, that's great.
It's oh my gosh, when you see the movie I made, it's so awesome. We won an award, blah, blah, blah. So Anne's like, okay, great, can't wait to watch it. So it shows up, ordered in dinner. We sat down and I put on my fan film. It's so bad.
John.
No. This isn't just like, the artist is always hard. No, dead serious. It's terrible.
Did Anne say this is terrible?
She did not disagree with me. It's pretty bad. Oh my God. So what's funny is like the next night Corey was supposed to come over and watch too. I had to cancel that. So Corey's never seen it either. Corey's never seen it. Nobody in LA has seen it other than, and nobody will ever see it. It's so bad.
Clearly there are DVDs available. And for anyone out there watching, if you have a DVD and you can provide it to me, there is a bounty available. And this also goes for John's breakdancing videos, which are from his Canada days. And I know that he had a breakdancing troupe. So one of the members of that...
They're buried at the Campea Ranch. Those tapes are buried at Campea.
Your fellow breakdancers, so that they can never.
They don't have it. You gotta remember, when I was professionally breakdancing, yes, I professionally breakdanced. When I was breakdancing, we did not live in a world where we all walked around with these
you had the big handy cams that were like,
I don't know that
with the belt pack.
I don't know that any other videos of those exist except
we had to put the full VHS tape in it and close it. Oh yeah,
batteries last.
Lieutenant Colonel David G. Cummings had one of those.
Oh, of course.
Oh, he had that on his shoulder all the time like a boombox.
Yep. Nope. No, so those don't exist. I think I've got one of the only tapes in existence of that. Never going to see the light of day. Anyway, we need to keep moving here. Willow writes, did we skip? No. Okay, so Willow writes, if someone right now had time traveled back to 2019 and told NATO about what's going to happen, NATO's the National Association of Theater Owners, what's going to happen? Is there anything the theaters could have done? We talked about that before. I can't think of, like, even if you gave them a year advance notice, nothing they could have done. There's nothing they could have done. I mean, other than, but it's cost prohibitive. The movie theaters wouldn't have had the money. Let's put plexiglass encasements around every 2 seats. So every 2 seats is actually a private, air ventilated, private sealed booth for you and your kid, or you and your partner, or you and your buddy can go and watch, but you are actually physically separated with but that would have cost tens of billions of dollars. It wouldn't have even been cost effective. Honestly, all they could have done is start saving your money, because you're going to need it to last. Can you think of anything, if you could go back in time 1 year and warn all the theaters, this pandemic is coming, that's going to shut you all down? Is there any recommendations you could give to them that you can think of that they could have done to prepare for it?
I mean, the only thing, other than just proactively starting to, encourage, have hand sanitizing things. Because let's also remember, at the beginning of the pandemic, we did not know that this was airborne. It was all about hand washing. Everybody said you don't need to wear a mask unless you're sick, because we didn't know that it was airborne. It was all like about touching surfaces. So that would have maybe bought them a few. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think so. I'll have to think on that one a bit, but I can't imagine any scenario that would not have bankrupted them just in the implementation process.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like we could probably think of some things, but things that would have been worse than the pandemic itself that would have bankrupted them. I mean, yeah, that's the problem. All right, we move on here. Let's see. Are we up to date? Yes, we are. I finished Umbrella Academy Season 2. Isn't it great? You know what? I think I'm going to do a spoiler discussion on Umbrella Academy Season 2. I think maybe on Sunday we're going to do a spoiler discussion for Umbrella. For those few of you who have watched it. Anyway, I finished Umbrella Academy Season 2 this last week, and I love it more than the first season. But I love the music they selected throughout the season. The music worked just great with every scene in the show. Some modern but great classics as well. I got to say, that's the only time I felt like it pulled me out of it a little bit, because they're in 1963, and sometimes they played like modern music.
I hate that.
And I gotta admit, it pulled me out. You're right. The songs they selected worked for the scenes. It did, but it still pulled me out a little bit. Aaron, I don't think you've watched Umbrella Academy Season 1, have you?
You know what? I haven't watched Umbrella Academy anything, except Tom had it on in the kitchen the other day, and I didn't know initially what it was, and then I saw a bunch of people standing around in umbrellas, and I just kind of assumed that it was the Umbrella Academy, and I wasn't turned off. I wouldn't say that I was turned on, but I wasn't turned off, and I was like, okay, I'm curious about this. Like, it wasn't something that was so on my radar that I was like, I have to watch this. But after seeing it like kind of playing in the background, I was intrigued. So now I'm intrigued enough to, of course, once I finish Battlestar Galactica, because that is all that I am watching right now, on the surprisingly wonderful Peacock. Go them. I'm curious about checking it out, so that'll be my next binging show.
It's actually really wonderful,
Great.
And I like Season 2 even more. Season 2 just dropped. I liked it even more, so do check it out when you get a chance. All right, next one up, we've got Jim K, who writes, "Hey John, do you think that if the theaters are open, let's say 70 to 80%, and of them at 30 to 50% capacity, will it affect Mulan's numbers, since people who are annoyed about having to pay for it already will be more annoyed that it couldn't be seen in theaters? Thanks." Well, I don't know. See, here's the thing. We thought, heading into July, when we still thought that there was going to be a chance that the movie theaters could be open in July, we all thought that, you know what? Even if the movie theaters are at 50% capacity, there's not going to be any other movies. Right? It's basically going to average itself. So even if it's at 50%, even if theaters are being held at 50% capacity, if you want to go see Mulan, there are going to be tickets available, because it's not like there are 25 other films out there right now that are taking up the theater screens. So you could have done just fine. Today, though, it's a little bit different. I just don't know that. First of all, I don't think in North America we're going to have 70 to 80% of the screens open. I think we're going to have screens open, but I don't think, I don't agree with NATO's, again, the National Association of Theater Owners, I don't agree with NATO's optimistic assessment that we're going to have like 80% of the theaters open come the end of August. I just don't agree with that. Hopefully they're right, and if they are, then maybe Mulan could have made some bank, but I think right now, I think that's overly optimistic, so we'll have to wait and see. I do lament that I'm not going to be able to see it on the big screen. I lament that a lot. But, yeah, you know, it is what it is. Hey, guys, pandemic. First world problem. First world problem. Oh, no, I have to watch the movie on my TV instead of the movie screen. There are bigger problems in the world.
Well, then there also will be the, you know, and now see Mulan like you've never seen it before on the big screen as it was intended. Like, there will be those, like, as you were mentioning, in maybe independent theaters or as a special
re-release or something.
It won't be like, oh, we're going to have Mulan as a national release as it would be if it was released in theaters, you know, traditionally. But I think that there will be special, you know, one weekend only or one night only, you know, promotional event kind of things where, you know, like how they had the 25th anniversary of whatever that is in a theater, so that people get a chance to see a movie on the big screen that they otherwise wouldn't have seen that way.
All right, next up, we've got Thanos Was Right writes, In response to the request for you to do another movie commentary video, you said you would need it to be a big film. I have the perfect film, Cats. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't think I'm going to be doing that one. Oh, Tom
However,
Hooper.
Chris Carr and I will.
Oh yeah, you and Chris Carr could do one, but
Chris Carr and I will do an entire segment, and I would say about 75% of that will be like, and there's a butthole, and there's a butthole, and there's a butthole.
Let's see here. Jim K also writes, hey, John, I know you're a Doom Patrol fan very much, like me, so wanted to know your thoughts on season 2. I haven't finished it yet. I haven't finished season 2 yet. I still have to watch the finale. I love it. It's even more crazy than the first, and that was wild. I think the MVP of the show is Diane Guerrero as Jane. Your thoughts on the MVP character? Well, honestly, I thought MVP of season 1 of Doom Patrol, which again is a show that I had no interest in, and I love it. She was clearly the MVP of season 1. I actually think the MVP of season 2 was Brendan Fraser. I think Brendan Fraser was the MVP of season 2. And although Diane was still great, and the Jane character is fantastic in season 2, they all are. Larry might actually be becoming my favorite character in the show. That aside, I thought she was clearly the MVP of season 1. I actually think Brendan Fraser was the MVP of season 2. All right, Ben Rayner writes, and this will be the last question because we're at 11:30. We gotta let Aaron go here. Hey, John. Yesterday, I watched Predators, and I loved it. I liked Predators, as a matter of fact. I don't like it more than the original Predator, though. I have a hot take. I think I liked it more than Predator. It has a great cast from Adrian Brody to a very young Mahershala Ali, Topher Grace as well, and Walter, I think you mean Walton Goggins. Great fun movie, 8.5 out of 10. You know what? That movie came out, and I thought it was very odd that Academy Award winner Adrian Brody was going to be in it, but I enjoy that movie. That's the one where the predators actually kidnapped the human beings and took them to an alien game reserve on another planet so they can hunt them there. I actually like that movie. I don't think it's as good as the original Predator, but I'm down with that one. Have you ever seen Predators? That one with Adrian Brody?
I don't like I usually like dreadlocks, but I don't like his dreads.
You don't like those dreads? I
don't like his dreads. They're just and I don't like his face. I just don't like the way he looks. He's just, it's just doesn't sit well. Yeah.
I remember
because I like the way that Alien looks.
Right.
So it's not the fact that he looks scary. It's just that he's like the alien is scary, but I like how he looks. The Predator is scary, but I just don't like how he looks.
I've always liked the look of the Predator. I've always liked it. But the funny thing was with Adrian Brody, because he'll always be to me the guy from The Pianist, right? Winning that Academy Award, one of the greatest on-stage Oscar moments of all time, as Halle Berry presented him the award and he grabs her and kisses her
and sexually assaults her right on stage in front of America.
Yeah,
my favorite performance of his was in Summer of Sam.
Oh yeah, he was great.
That's where I first saw him, and I was like, this guy is amazing.
He's really good.
And really good.
And I just thought, but that guy put him into an action film like this, and he actually worked really well. I really liked it. Anyway, Aaron, thanks for being here. It's good to have you back, and good to have Joey back.
She's asleep. I tried to get her to come over to say her goodbye, and she just gave me the side eye like, bitch, I need to poop.
Okay, she's
Joey and I are both going to take a potty break, and also today, August 6th, is 1 month away from my 4-year anniversary of being diagnosed with breast cancer, which was on September 6, 2016. And so for the next month, I'm going to be raising money for an organization that Tom and I both sit on the board of. It's Cancer Free Generation, which is part of Tower Cancer Research Foundation. So follow me at Aaron L. Cummings on Twitter and Instagram. And later today, I'll be making an announcement of how you can help me fight cancer for everyone.
What's that website of that organization you were talking about? Do you know the
website? Tower Cancer Research Foundation. Tower Cancer Free Generation. Do Cancer Free Generation because
Cancer Free
Generation.
Generation.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find that.
Because Cancer-Free Generation is like the young professionals arm of Tower, and we raise.
There we go.
We raise seed money for researchers who are in the early stages of their research. We give them $100,000 grants, which are instrumental in getting that early stage research, so that they can then take that and go on and get the big bucks. But it's something that Tom and I are obviously really passionate about. And so for the next month, I will be raising money for that, and that will be the best Cancerversary present that you guys could give me.
Cancerversary. Anyway, great as always to have you here, and we will talk to you again, Sue.
Bye.
See you later. All right, guys. That is Erin Cummings. Great to have her back again. All right, guys, listen, we still have about 20 minutes to go, so we're going to just fly through as many of these questions as we possibly can. See you later. Bye, Joey. All right, let's get back into it. Okay, I'm always distracted when Joey's here. Okay, let's see. That was Ben Rayner. Let's move on here. After Ben, we've got Evil John Campea, who writes, as a regular John, I've seen your Earth's Pixar has a new movie coming called Luca. Are you coming to age story? I think you meant a coming to age story with a sea monster twist. Have you heard anything? And what do you think? My Earth's Pixar only does car sequels, so I prefer your Pixar. Yeah, I've heard about it. I saw the image they put out. Look, I am simply now in the position that I just assume anything that Pixar comes out is going to be fantastic. Right? I mean, because I have doubted Pixar before, because, I saw the previews for Up and I thought that looks weird, and I loved it. I saw the previews for Ratatouille. I'm like, a rat is a chef. Okay, that seems dumb. Love it. I saw the previews for Coco. I thought, okay, that looks kind of eh. Oh, Coco's so good. I saw the previews for WALL-E. I'm like, really? And I loved it. So I'm done. I'm done. I am retired from the having any doubt whatsoever about Pixar business. The having any doubt about Pixar business, I'm out of that business. So I don't know much more about it other than the press release that they put out and that I read, but I just assume at this point it's probably going to be freaking fantastic. All right, Luke1234 writes, tech question. With all the cables you have in your studio, do you ever get noise interference? No, I do not. And have you ever used long USB cables? I do. As a matter of fact, I have a long USB cable. I have a USB cable extender attached on that webcam that I had to pull out at the last second to use for Aaron. And have you ever used long USB cables? And if so, have you ever noticed slower response times if you have used them? Thank you. I have never personally. I guess it can depend on the quality of cable or whatever, but no, I have never had an issue where I've had a problem with any sort of delay or problems using a USB extender. So that's never been an issue. Now, I also use like really insulated cables and things like that for my audio stuff. Plus, my audio cables are pretty separate from all the other mess of cables that are flying around here, from the video cables, all the cables coming out of the computer and stuff like that too. But no, I used to have noise problems. Like back in the AMC days, we used to have sound interference problems, and a lot of that had to do with the number of cables and electrical problems. But I have since solved those, so it can be an issue. Just make sure you keep your audio cables separated from anything else, really. Make sure you get like the higher quality cables, all that kind of stuff, and you should be good to go. But the USB extenders, I've never had an issue. All right, TJ Lynn writes, the other day when I said I tend to sleep during movies like Arrival or Blade Runner 2049, it's because of the silent moments. But I have no trouble getting through The King's Speech, Irishman, Lawrence of Arabia, because there's rarely silent moments. So it's not slower movies. It's movies that literally have long extended moments of silence. Gotcha. That's good to know. You know what? I think my wife is the same way. Anne, as big of a movie fan as she is, Anne has trouble getting through a movie without falling asleep. She really does. And I think those quiet moments might be the same thing. All right, Mr. TJ Linos writes, my country doesn't have Disney Plus, but even if it's available here, I won't pay $30 on top of a subscription. If I have to pay $30, I want a movie-going experience. Fortunately, theaters here are opening mid-August, so I can see Tenet and Mulan. Okay, so you are lucky. You're in an area that does not have Disney Plus, and your theaters are going to be open. Well, then you get to do what I can't do. You get to go watch Mulan the way it was meant to be seen on a big screen. and pay less money to do it. So you are in a fortuitous situation as far as that goes. And I hope you're able to take advantage of that, man. I really do. And I feel your pain. Yeah. I mean, listen, especially if you're single, why would you, let's be honest here. If a new Star Wars movie came out and they couldn't play it in theaters and it was going to be on a streaming service for $35, who am I kidding? Of course I'm going to pay for it. But it's a rare movie that I would do that for, right? It's a rare movie I would do that for. For some people, Mulan will be such a movie. Not for others, but for some people it will be. So I have to kind of wait and see how this all kind of comes about. All right, Mr. TJ Lynn also writes, one of two. I recently rewatched Titanic. Nice. I remember when I was a teenage boy in 1997. I kind of hate this film, and especially girls of my age, because they adore Leo so much that I can't stand him. Now, seeing this film again, I love it. And Leo is so good and charismatic in it. Have you ever feel this way when you were a teenager, a teenage heartthrob, grab the attention of girls around you? I know it's petty. No, listen. You're not alone in that, TJ. I remember we talked about this back in my movie blog days and even like on AMC and whatever. You know, when Titanic came out, yes, that was in the era still of the teeny bopper magazines, and you know, Leo DiCaprio was on the cover every other month of every other magazine, right? He was the teenage heartthrob for all the teeny bopper girls and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, guys got sick of it. We did. Maybe it's petty, but we did. And it wasn't until he had done a few more films after that. It was kind of like the Robert Pattinson thing. A little bit different, but it was much like the Robert Pattinson thing. Because a lot of these small films that Robert Pattinson had done in the years after Twilight, like a lot of guys wouldn't go and watch Robert Pattinson films. What, the Twilight guy? Sparkly vampire boy? I mean, that's how a lot of people felt, right? I think that's how a lot of people felt. It's like, the guy from Twilight, no, I don't think I'll go see, High Life or Good Time. I don't think I'm going to go see those. No, thanks. Twilight boy, no thank you. But then you do start to see those movies and you realize, holy crap, this dude's an excellent actor. Forget the sparkly vampire, teen throb, whatever. This dude's an excellent actor. That same thing happened with Leo DiCaprio. A lot of people forget about that now. Like we think of Leo DiCaprio, oh, he's one of the greatest actors in the world. Everybody knows that. Blah, blah. But no. There was a period of time when he was teeny bopper magazine boy. And then it took a little bit, especially after everybody got sick of Titanic because of how successful it was. It took a few films for people to go, oh, wow. You know that Leo DiCaprio kid? Well, the one who's in Titanic and like Romeo and Juliet and yeah, I just saw this other movie of his. He's really freaking good. Get out of here. No, seriously, go watch it. And so there's almost a very similar kind of pattern. With that. So you weren't alone, TJ. Believe me, you weren't alone in that. All right, Boris writes, I hope you brought a change of clothes because your eyes are about to piss tears. John Ralphio is the best guest character in the series, hands down. Rewatching Parks and Rec because I just found it on Amazon Prime in Australia. I miss this show so bad, dude. There's not, I honestly, there's not a week that goes by that I don't watch 1 or 2 episodes of Parks and Rec. Dead serious. There is not a week that goes by that I don't watch at least 1 or 2 episodes of Parks and Rec. There are many, many times when it's like end of the day or Ann and I are about to have dinner. It's like, I want to put something on for a minute. Sure. We'll just randomly pick a random episode of Parks and Rec. I can watch it anytime. That and The Office. Anytime I can put on a random episode because I know I'm going to laugh. And John Ralphio with Tom is truly one of the great recurring characters, not regular characters, but recurring characters, pops up every once in a while that you're ever going to see in any sitcom ever. Why are you in such a good mood? I just got hit by a bus. Give me that sweet settlement money. I mean, there was something about, and then, he's great. He's an absolutely great character. And it's unfortunate because now whenever I see him in things, that's all I see is John Ralphio. But hey, it is what it is. All right. Nathan Diggs writes, hypothetically speaking, if you take a bigger IP like new Avengers movies and place it in the PVOD, do you think Disney Plus will have a hard time reaching the 25 million purchases? And should they also make the film available regularly in a year to force a purchase? Well, I think, let's put it this way. Let's say Avengers 5 was coming out, right? Avengers 5. Now, the last Avengers movie made $2.7 billion, nearly $3 billion. Nearly $3 billion. So let's say Avengers 5 is probably going to be somewhere you'd expect in the same neighborhood. Let's call it potentially a $3 billion film. Doesn't have to be a $3 billion film to be a massive, massive, massive success, but let's say potentially it could be a $3 billion film. Okay. Let's take a look at this. If it did 25 million, let's say they put Avengers 5 up and it did 25 million purchases, right? At $30 a pop. That's insane. And it makes it $750 million. $750 million. That's huge. That's incredible. That's amazing. Yes, I think an Avengers 5 being released straight to VOD could definitely get 25 million buys. But here's the problem. The problem is that it could have potentially made $3 billion at the box office. Even if you do the 1.5 multiplier and take away the theatrical cut, you're still talking about a movie that would have netted $2 billion in your pocket. So $750 million versus $2 billion. But yes, I think unlike a Mulan and unlike even a Black Widow and unlike a New Mutants or unlike anything else, I do think Avengers 5 could very reasonably get 25 million buys. Nearly 1 out of every 2 Disney Plus subscribers getting it. I could see that. The problem, of course, becomes that that's still way short of the money it would have made in theaters. And then 3 months after theaters, you could put it online and still make more money off it online. You know, it's a both and. You would have made all that money. You would have made that $2 billion in theaters, $3 billion at the box office. And then later you get to put it on VOD and you get to put it on Disney Plus and you get to put it on premium rental, do whatever you want to do and still make even more money. But yes, I do think, Nathan, that Avengers 5 could get 25 million buys. I feel pretty confident about that. Maybe even more. All right, next up. Jordan Harper writes, what did you think of the future of Apple TV? I've enjoyed a number of shows such as The Morning Show and others. So will you look Apple laptop once they have models with their own chip? Oh, so that's 2 separate questions. Number 1, I'm really enjoying Apple TV, particularly Morning Show and For All Mankind. I haven't started watching that Chris Evans show yet, but I've heard that's great too. Apple TV is going to be fine because they have unlimited money. Disney doesn't have unlimited money. Apple has unlimited money. And Apple, they are all in on Apple TV Plus. They are all in on getting into the entertainment game. And they're doing pretty good so far, but long term, they've got all the money in the world to make it happen. And they have all the money in the world to even fail for a few years. Even if they fail for 5 years at it, they've got so much money, it doesn't matter. They could buy and sell Disney 10 times over. I'm not even exaggerating. Apple could buy and sell Disney 10 times over. So they have unlimited, they'll be fine. As far as, for those of you who don't know, Apple has just announced recently that they are ditching Intel processors and they're going to start to make their own proprietary processors, basically the same kind of processors that are in iPads and iPhones. And those processors are sick fast. I literally render 4K video on my iPad faster than it renders on my beast of a desktop computer. It's crazy. But yeah, I am definitely going to be looking at picking up one of the new Apple devices once they start introducing their own chips. I am definitely going to be looking at that for sure. All right, next up, Saint71 writes, one of two. Hi guys, hope all is well. What do you think will be the reaction of the theaters to this Mulan experiment? Most reacted to Universal last week, but at least Universal was trying to find a middle way. Universal was not trying to find a middle way. They were trying to take advantage of a situation, and a 17-day theatrical window is not a middle ground. That's not a middle ground at all. Where's 2 of 2? Is there a 2 of 2? I don't see any 2 of 2. Okay, so there was just saying 1 of 2. Once again, Disney reached out to all the theaters and let them know about this Mulan thing and consulted with them weeks before they made the announcement. So the theaters knew, they were brought up to speed, and they understood. Look, the theaters understand that unlike 4 months ago, which would have been unthinkable, today, studios, listen, there's nowhere left to put these movies, right? You can't have a movie sitting on a shelf for a year and a half. So they understood that their studio partners are going to have to take some of their movies and move them onto straight to streaming because there's just nowhere else to put them. 2021 is already getting packed. 2021 was already full. And now we've got 6 months of movies that are getting moved into 2021 on top of the films that were in 2021 already. They understood. Just like they understood when Disney had to take Artemis Fowl and move it to straight to streaming. Just like they understood when some of the other studios had to take things like An American Pickle and put it to HBO instead. Like, they understand that because that's just the reality. There was a massive difference, though, between what Warner Brothers and Disney and Paramount have been doing versus what Universal is trying to do. Universal is trying to take advantage of the pandemic and take advantage of a theatrical system that is hurting right now because of the pandemic, and trying to force something on the theaters that they never would agree to under normal circumstances. And they're trying to force the issue. So whereas studios like Warner Brothers and Disney and all them are acting in good faith, you know, Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, Sony, they're all acting in good faith and saying, we're trying to figure out how we all get through this together. Universal, on the other hand, without consulting with the theaters, just pulled Trolls World Tour and put it on streaming immediately without consulting the theaters, letting them know what they were doing. Now they're trying to force down on the theatrical movement this whole 17-day window thing, and they did it by going after AMC, which is the most in trouble theater chain. So no, it's not similar. You know, the theaters and Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, Sony, they're all maintaining their relationship, and they're all trying to figure out, how do we all get through this together? And we each need to do certain things that we need to do. Universal is a totally different situation, unfortunately. Let's see. Brandon writes, I know that it's off topic, but I just thought we should take a moment to send our condolences to the victims in Beirut, Lebanon. It is a truly horrific scene, and I send my prayers to the folks over there. I saw that video footage. Listen, if you were there 5 miles away and you saw it, you would think somebody just dropped a nuke. I mean, it was a mushroom cloud and everything. I mean, that was, oh my God, that was horrible. Apparently some misstored stuff just exploded. And that was horrible to see. Horrible to see. Thank you for bringing that up, Brendan. All right. Alan Dale writes, 1 of 2. VOD is okay for mid to low budget, but not big blockbusters. Like in Falling Down, it's not economically viable. Without theaters, there is no big budget blockbusters like Endgame or Star Wars or Batman, etc. No, yeah. And that's one of the things that like Disney and other studios have been trying to tell people. It's like the economic realities are, for us to make these movies, we need to make X amount of dollars. And to make those kinds of dollars, we need theatrical exhibition to make those types of dollars. That's what we do. And then it's movies like Avengers Infinity War making $2-point-something billion that not only pays for the other MCU movies, but also pays for Disney and their subsidiaries to make other types of films as well. You know, we heard Martin Scorsese say that once. Martin Scorsese, I understand the reality is that the big money-making films don't only make a lot of money for the studios, but that money pays for the smaller artistic films as well. That's what pays for those other movies, is the blockbusters pay for those other movies. And so there's this whole economic reality that everybody's trying to find their way in, and the pandemic has thrown it all into chaos. And so you're seeing studios and theaters scrambling, trying to figure out, how do we exist within this kind of reality? All right, next up, Mr. TJ Lynn writes, Both Titanic and Endgame reached $2 billion worldwide. They also feature the death of their main character, Leo and Robert Downey Jr. Which do you think will earn significantly less money had the main character survived at the end? And hi, Aaron. Yeah, Aaron, you just missed Aaron. Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man dying at the end, irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. That movie wouldn't have made $1 more or $1 less had Robert Downey Jr. not died at the end. Not $1 more, not $1 less. I think, because I don't think people, if Robert Downey Jr. hadn't died at the end, I don't think people would have gone, I would have come back to watch Endgame again, but because Iron Man lived, I don't think I'm going to go watch it again. I don't think there was that for anybody. Leo dying. Jack, let Jack on the damn floating piece of wood. Jack, as he floats down the thing and everybody's crying. I think that had a huge impact on, to be stereotypical for a second, especially the female audience at the time, desperately wanting to go back and watch that movie again and dragging their friends to come see it. I don't think the Iron Man death did that, especially since when you consider the MCU is the Marvel Cinematic fake death universe, right? We all know Robert Downey Jr. will be back as Iron Man at some point. Maybe not next year, maybe not next year, maybe not in 3 years, but at some point, we all know Robert Downey Jr. is going to be back. Just like Spider-Man, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. Oh, don't worry, you're going to go and you'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't worry about it. We'll see you in the next movie, kid. Like we all know that, right? So I don't think the Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man death, had he not died, I don't think it makes a lick of difference at the box office. Leo's character, that ending of Titanic, though, I think that got a lot of people coming back for multiple viewings. So I think that one probably would have had the bigger impact. All right. Boris writes, "Hey, John, another from me. For Mulan, can't they work out a deal for cinemas and VOD? I live in Western Australia where cinemas are now open and I really don't want to watch it on VOD or wait. Wouldn't it be more financially beneficial for both parties? No. See, movie theaters understand it is not in their interests to play movies that also, like, they need the theatrical window. They need it to survive. I remember back when I was working at AMC, I told this story before, but when I went out to the headquarters in Leawood, Kansas, I remember talking to one of the AMC executives because the theatrical window was an issue that was coming up at the time. This was years ago. And said, if we lost a theatrical window, it would be catastrophic for the theatrical industry. It would just be catastrophic. We can't do it. And I don't think that's changed. I think that is still true today. And so movie theaters will simply not play movies that are also playing on VOD. They have to hold that line, because if they don't hold that line, then they're going to get taken advantage of. So sometimes, this is true in your life as well. You have to draw a line. That's why a lot of unions sometimes will say, hey, in these work conditions, we need to have this. And then employers will say, well, why don't you just give us this too? And then sometimes the workers just got to say, no, we got to draw the line here, or else it's going to be taking advantage of us and it's not in our interest. And I think that's where the theaters are with the theatrical window. They need that theatrical window. It's good for business. And so, no, cinemas won't play it. Again, not all cinemas. I'm just the majority of cinemas, but not all of them. Certainly not all of them. All right, next up, Starscream writes, hello and welcome back, Erin. She's not here anymore. First, I'd like to say I'm sorry for the passing of her friend, Nick Cordero. Obviously, you guys probably saw in the news, Erin and Tom's friend passed away, Nick Cordero, and hope all is well. John, I have to agree, Transformers, there was a lack of respect for Optimus Prime. He was supposed to be the greatest of us. Even in Megatron's hatred of Optimus Prime, he always respected him and sometimes feared him. And I won't go into any spoilers, but certainly Bots being there made no sense in continuity, and still I did great, as I always do. Stay safe and stay filthy. Well, thank you, Starscream. Yeah, listen, I was fine, because you look at new incarnations like this, just forget continuity schmontinuity. This, War for Cybertron that's on Netflix right now is its own new thing, and it's not going to be in perfect, proper continuity with everything else. It doesn't need to be. So yeah, you were right. It's not in continuity. Like what happens with Ultra Magnus in this movie is it completely out of continuity with what happens with Ultra Magnus in the Transformers animated movie, right? So you just got to not worry about that. But yes, I agree, Starscream. My biggest issue with this Transformers thing was the way they handled Optimus Prime. I still liked it. I still liked it. I'll watch the next chapter when it comes out. But I did have a bit of an issue with that. Canada Rocks writes, have you seen the trailer for the new series Ratchet? Sarah Paulson looks like she's going to kill it as a young nurse. Ratchet also. This has to be the most aesthetically beautiful trailer I've seen in a long time. Listen, I will tell you what. This trailer... Hold on a second. Let me just pull this up. There we go. It's Ratchet with a D at the end. Of course, it's a prequel. The nurse from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It looks awesome. My favorite part that I was sitting alone watching this trailer and I just burst out laughing and I had to rewind it because it's so awesome. There's a scene where Nurse Ratchet is standing there and another nurse is sitting down and eating a peach that was on the table. And Sarah Paulson's like, that's my peach. And the other nurse goes, I don't see your name on it. That's ridiculous. Nobody puts their names on peaches. And then the other nurse goes, what are you going to do about it? And Sarah Paulson just stares at her. And the nurse goes, what? Are you deaf? And Sarah Paulson goes, no, I'm just thinking about all the things I'm going to do about it. Oh, I freaked out. That moment and that line was so good. That moment and that line was so good. What are you, deaf? No, I'm just thinking about all the things I'm going to do about it. I'm like, holy crap, I would be scared witless. One of the great villains in theatrical history. Yeah, that trailer looked I had no interest in that show. No interest in it till I saw that trailer. Now I'm interested. All right. Batman. Right. So with Cineworld UK open week now, I have already seen the Dark Knight trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, Back to the Future, and this weekend have the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the extended cut no less, so it's going to be long. You settle in for 12 hours. And Terminator 2 booked. As they say, every cloud has a silver lining. Dude, that is awesome. And again, in the midst of all the BS with the pandemic, there are a few little tiny silver linings, and one of them being film fans being able to watch some great classic films on the big screen that they never thought they'd get a chance to watch on the big screen again. And look at that lineup you did. Back to the Future, the Dark Knight trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, the whole Lord of the Rings. I'm dying to see the Lord of the Rings theatrical cut. I'm dying to see the Lord of the Rings on the big screen again. That's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. So I'm a little bit envious there, Batman. A little bit envious. All right, next up, Alan writes, hey, John / Aaron. I was wondering if you ever watched the Transformers Cybertron animated series. It had the Omega Lock with Cyber Planet keys. Never heard of it. You think that storyline could ever get adapted? Seems like the story is already laid out. Team Godzilla, get out of here with that. Team Kong, man. No, never did watch it. So I really don't. I have no idea what the Cybertron, the Cyber Planet keys are. I don't know what the Omega Lock is. Don't know any of that. I didn't really watch a lot of the Transformers stuff other than the OG series, the original animated movie, and I tried a little bit of Beast Wars. Didn't work for me. I know a lot of people love Beast Wars, and that's great. It never really worked for me. But no, I never saw the Cybertron animated series. I never watched it. So unfortunately, Alan, I can't give you my insight on that since I'm not familiar with it. Chicago Minion writes, we just got a few minutes left here, guys. Hey, John and Rob. Just saw in Variety, Peacock announced that all 8 Harry Potter films, as I predicted, will be available to stream in Windows starting later this year and rolling out into 2021, including Peacock's free version. Your thoughts? Yeah, like when they made the announcement that HBO Max was losing all the Harry Potter films, because there were pre-existing deals with NBC Universal. We said on this show, the assumptive thing here is probably we're going to see it pop up on Peacock. Still, you'd think I'd get used to saying that stupid name by now. They got to change the name of that thing. Anyway, that would be Peacock. And then the other day they made it official. Yeah, you're going to see all the Harry Potter. I don't know how long that license lasts. At some point, it will go back to HBO. It'll go to the Warner-owned HBO Max at some point, but whether that point is in 5 years, 2 years, 8 years, I don't know. But hey, listen, Battlestar Galactica's on Peacock. Heroes is on Peacock. You're going to have the Warner. You're going to have the Harry Potter stuff. Peacock's putting together a nice little lineup. Now they just got to get on Roku and the Amazon Fire Stick. All right. Guillaume Labelle writes, good day, sir. Saw Jaws the other day in theaters. Nice. And to my surprise, it was packed, with safety precautions, of course. Next week, E.T. and Unhinged the week after. I'm looking forward to seeing that Unhinged. That's the new Russell Crowe film. Side note, my name is said like Guillaume. Oh, like the actor Robert Guillaume. Robert Guillaume. A good Canadian kid, by the way, Robert Guillaume. So it's pronounced Guillaume. You know what? I think you told me that before, and I always forget when I come across it. I will try to remember that next time, Guillaume. I will try to remember that. Just like the actor Robert Guillaume. All right, I will try to keep that in mind. Again, silver linings, getting to see. It's great that you got to see Jaws. I've never seen Jaws on the big screen. I would love to see Jaws on the big screen. I've never been able to do that. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, the trailer for Netflix's Ratchet took me from having zero interest to I have to see this right now, even if the show itself sucks. That is some great work. I was just saying that, Ryan. I was not interested in this show. That trailer is amazing. If you've not seen it yet, guys, you got to go find it and look it up. All right, Mani writes, I was in college in the late 90s, and I loved my cannabis and watching indie movies at the local indie movie theater. Some memorable favorites, Run Lola Run, Pie, The Big Lebowski, Keep Safe, and Social Distance like the Stanley Cup. Oh, that's mean. Like the Stanley Cup and the Leafs have since 1967. You know what? People always look at me and act like I'm lying. But it's like I hear people complaining about, well, my team sucks. My team. Oh, yeah? My team, the Toronto Maple Leafs, they haven't even been, let alone won. They haven't even been to the Stanley Cup Finals in the entire time that I have drawn breath on this earth. It had already been years since they had been there when I was born. It had already been years. But my team, in my entire lifetime, has never even been to the Stanley Cup Finals. All right, last one we're going to do today here, guys. Jordan Harper writes, hey, John, I have reached the point that when I hear Star Wars news, I not believe it, or no, in a few months, it will lose the director. Once I see photos of a director on set, I will start to get excited again. Do you think this is a fair reaction? Yeah. Listen, I honestly also can't get that excited about Star Wars news right now because tons of things get announced and then we never hear anything. Or directors depart or whatever, because that's just been one of the weaknesses of Kathleen Kennedy trying to run Lucasfilm. I just don't like, even when the amazing news came that Taika Waititi was going to direct a Star Wars film, I was excited, but even then my excitement had a limit because I still have this shade of doubt that we're ever actually going to see that happen. You're right. We're at the point with Star Wars now with all these things that they were constantly, it felt like every week and a half there was some big new Star Wars announcement, but then nothing, right? I'm getting to the point of, okay, that's cool, but I'll believe it when there's actually, once it's tangible. Like you said, once I see a picture of the director on set, then I'll start to get excited. All right, guys, listen, there are still more questions to come, like 50 Shades of Geek, Chris Warden, The Lone Brown Coat, and others. Do not worry, guys. We've run out of time for today, but tomorrow we will start off the live questions part of the show with your questions. So once we start the live questions part of the show tomorrow, your guys will be the first questions up. So if you've sent in a question here today, we haven't got to it, don't worry. It'll be addressed off the top tomorrow before we get into tomorrow's fresh questions. All right, guys. That will do it for me for now. Thank you so much for being here. Special thanks to Erin Cummings for being here. It's always good to have her here. Thank you to all of you guys for making the show part of your day. And a special thank you to you guys who sent in those questions, because number one, you gave us great fun things to talk about. Number two, you supported this show while you did it. And all of us here, thank you very much for that. Don't forget, guys, the show will be back again tomorrow. My name is John Campea, guys. Do the four important things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves. For the love of God, take care of the people around you as well. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.